It's a terrifying thing to fall into the hands of the Lord, and we want people to be saved from that. We want them to trust in the promise that Jesus is the answer, and so we urge them to believe that they can depend on Christ for that salvation. He can do what they can't, and that's remove their sin. And tied into that is my repentance and my baptism, where I meet the Spirit in the water and I'm regenerated and made alive spiritually, so I can spend eternity with the Lord. You see, my salvation is totally by grace through faith. The emphasis here is that you can trust the Lord, and Abraham is certainly someone that trusted God and was blessed. God says, I'm going to give this to you. What does Abraham do? He responds. He gets up, and what does he do? He leaves, takes his family. This is no small thing, by the way. No about in a large extended family. He picks them all up and they move. And so again, this is a response to what God is doing for him. God's going to bless him. He's going to multiply his descendants. He's going to make of him a great nation. By his seed, all the nations of the earth are going to be blessed. And again, how does Abraham respond to what God has already done for him? He goes. And as he goes, what is God doing continually? Well, if you go through Genesis 12 and Genesis 13 and Genesis 14 and Genesis 15 and 17 and chapter 22, God is continually reassuring Abraham. This is my promise. Here is what I'm going to do for you. And every time that this happens, Abraham believes. He trusts God. And you know what's really interesting, if you go back to the book of Acts, actually, the fill in the blank I just skipped over, it's went out. But look at Acts. He heads out, but does he ever receive the inheritance in fullness in his life? I mean, he dies, he has to buy a cave from the people who own the land so he can be buried there. He never realized the promise in his life. But he believes, he trusts all the way through. And that is why the power of Romans 4:20 comes alive here, because through all of this, he never wavered in unbelief at the promise of God. In fact, his faith was made complete. His faith was strengthened. How does that happen? Through a dedicated life to God. And how could he do it? Because he was fully convinced that whatever God promised, he was able to do.